It's shaping up for another big weekend for Auburn recruiting.
You are Locked On Auburn, your daily podcast on the Auburn Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into Locked On Auburn, your daily Auburn Tigers podcast. I'm your host, Zac Blackerby, and thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Happy Recruiting Thursday to all who celebrate. We are joined by Brian Smith. He hosts the Portal, Locked On's daily Auburn, or Locked On's daily national recruiting show, as well as Transfer Portal and NIL. Brian, you do an outstanding job with all that. We'll talk about maybe who's next to commit to the Auburn Tigers and how Hugh Freeze and other coaches may use these spring games as recruiting tools. And we got a little portal chatter as well, but this is going to be this is a big weekend when it comes to Auburn recruiting. And it kind of starts today as this drops Thursday morning with, this is according to On3, but Travis Burgess, the quarterback from Grayson, who I will continue to champion throughout this recruiting process, as well as Evan Jacobson, one of the better tight ends in this class, kid from Iowa. You take all the tight ends from Iowa that you possibly can. Notre Dame really wants him. Auburn seems to be in it. He's visiting today, according to reports. So I don't know. Let's start there, Brian, with those two guys.
Well, I think that Travis Burgess is the most important player that's visiting just because he plays quarterback. You need to figure that out. Yeah. Are you going to go all in on him, or are you going to pivot to Landon Duckworth, or do you not know? If it's the third, I'm concerned. You need to figure that out, and maybe they could possibly knock this one out of the park this weekend with Travis, and that ends. If not, I know, like flat out, I know Wisconsin really wants him. North Carolina's got an OV with him. This will get much more interesting if Auburn can't get it done with Burgess in short order. As for the tight end, Evan Jacobson, that's just a really good player. The length, the size, the frame, he's exactly what you're looking for. He's similar to Ryan G, probably a little more athletic at this same stage, but I don't know if he's as good a blocker. Ryan's powerful. Mm-hmm. That's a kid, though, that be a flex tight end, could be your Rivaldo Fairweather kind of player, and he's still growing into his body. If Notre Dame wants a tight end, it's usually a pretty good sign, by the way.
They've got a pretty good track record at it for sure. The NFL definitely seems to take notice of who's playing tight end at Notre Dame. Yeah, I mean, once again, we've talked about him every time you and I sit down to record, but like Travis Burgess, like the importance of getting a quarterback in early. Auburn didn't get a quarterback in early last year, and they still were able to pull together an impressive class. It just helps, though. It just helps to know like who the face of this class is, just because that's the nature of the quarterback position, especially if you get a guy like Burgess whose ranking could kind of shoot up once his senior season starts. You and I both are kind of expecting that to happen with Burgess. I almost think that gives you a little bit of cachet to say like, yeah, like we knew this was going to happen. I think it actually like helps you as far as what the optics look like. But yeah, Travis Burgess coming in today is obviously going to be a good thing.
If they can get that done, I think it would help them with C.D. Morgan and any other recruit. For instance, Carter, the kid that's committed to them, is looking around a little bit, and he's a big-time receiver. If you get a receiver that's communicating at least some, and I assume he knows Travis because they're from both Georgia, but maybe that helps him keep it because Florida State and a bunch of other schools are trying to get him to flip.
Yep.
That's just part of the process. So absolutely must figure out the quarterback position sooner than later.
So admittedly, I don't know much about this next guy that we're going to mention. Kamarian Johnson On3 has him as coming into town on Friday for the Tigers. An edge/defensive end, guy 6'3", 265 from Muscle Shoals, an in-state guy. We don't talk about Muscle Shoals a ton, Brian, but what do we know about Kamarian Johnson?
That's an Alabama-Auburn battle. He's a kid, from what I've heard, grew up a Bama fan, but he's still visiting. So what is it about that made him not already to shut down his recruitment? Usually those are slam dunks. The kids that grow up Bama fans.
Yeah.
So why hasn't he? I'm not sure, but Bama, as we've talked about extensively here on Locked On Auburn, dropped the ball last year on in-state recruiting. I don't know if that's part of it. I don't know what it is, but Auburn's got some really good recruiters on their staff, and they got playing time available at the DN spot. So between the two, he's at least going to give the Auburn a shot. He could grow into a 3-tech too. That's
okay.
At that size
got
now,
room on his frame, you think?
Yeah, another 15, 20. I mean, at worst, he could be a guy that rotates on 3rd and 8. Maybe you slide him in.
Yeah.
And pass rushers are never going to go out of style. So that's something to think about. But Zach, would it bother you if Auburn ever stole an Alabama recruit? Would that ever bother you in any way, shape, or form?
No, that will never get old, Brian.
Okay.
That'll never get old. 100%.
I just wanted to ask for the sake of record.
100%. And fortunately, that's happening more now than it ever has, which is great. Which is great. So Saturday, just a few names, and we talked about some of these guys earlier in the week, but Aiden Harris, defensive lineman from North Carolina, and then his brother, Andrew Harris. He's listed more of an edge / D end, obviously from North Carolina. They're brothers. They're both visiting this weekend. Are they a package deal, do you think? Because it seems like Andrew, most people are predicting Andrew, who's the lower rated of the two. They're both 4 stars, but he seems to be slightly lower rated than his brother. They're picking Auburn, edging out NC State. And then Aiden, most people are predicting Ohio State is kind of the number 1 school, then Auburn right behind them. That leads me to think maybe they're not a package deal. Like, what's the situation here?
I was told early on last year that it was a package.
Okay.
But then I saw, I want to say 4 or 5 months ago, the Buckeyes were trending for Aiden.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't see it for the other one. I'm like, okay, either something changed or this is completely wrong. I don't know what the deal is. My guess is, I mean, if you're a parent, you want them at the same school. I mean, I get that. I mean, it's just easier for you, the travel time and, figuring stuff out.
You don't have to pick like whose game am I going to watch this weekend?
Oh, yeah. That stuff matters.
Totally.
So I don't know how you do that as a parent, because if the kids want to go to separate schools, they want to go to separate schools.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Ohio State will take both. That's as big a fish as there is in college football. So maybe they don't want to. Everybody has their own opinion. Auburn was all in on both last year. I know that flat out.
Sure.
So I would think the parents would be just happy if they both went to Auburn.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much NIL is playing into that, because both programs got elite NIL. So I would assume that it's just going to be a personal preference here.
So we mentioned those two, Aiden Harris and Andrew Harris, but also Hezekiah Harris, the commit,
that's true,
is visiting, as well as Caden Harris, the 4-star corner from Tennessee. A lot of Harrises in this weekend.
Caden's a guy that it's got offers from all over the place. Notre Dame's in on him in a whole bunch of programs. You never have enough corners. And I know that they need to get more size, more length. This kid's pretty long, and he's highly rated. Anybody that Notre Dame wants at corner, I'm interested in as a program. Like, they figured out.
It seems like Bama and Georgia are going after him as well. So, I mean, this is a high profile guy.
Yeah. I don't care what his ranking is. I've seen the film and I've seen his offer list. The programs that, like, if Kirby wants a corner, I'm generally pretty interested.
Yeah. I mean, he's a top 100 guy. On3 has him as the number 3 player in Tennessee. Like, yeah, he's good. He can play.
That's important. Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So how should Coach Freeze and this Auburn staff use this weekend, as well as we've listed a lot of edge and defensive end players. What's up with that? Like, how many are they taking? Let's jump into that in just a moment right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. The NBA playoffs are almost here, and FanDuel is giving new customers an incredible way to get in on the action. Right now, when you join FanDuel and you place your first $5 bet, you'll get $250 in bonus bets if your bet wins. I love how FanDuel makes betting so easy, whether it's picking my favorite team or diving into player props. They've got it all over at FanDuel. They've even added more and more college baseball lines as the Auburn Tigers moved up around that. I think they're 11th in college baseball right now. So head over to FanDuel. Don't miss out. FanDuel.com to claim that $250 in bonus bets today. Brian Smith, host of The Portal. Thank you for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. Make Brian show The Portal your second listen today. Let's start with the edge and defensive end recruiting, because, I mean, we've already mentioned several edge and defensive end players today, and there's other guys that are coming in this weekend, according to On3, like Bryce Perry Wright, who's an edge guy from Georgia. I mean, it just seems like in this cycle, in this class, Auburn is hosting so many of these guys, and they've already got some committed. Now, like, you can't take 8 edge players, and they're recruiting way more than that. Why do you think that is? And how many do you think they'd actually take?
I think it depends on which ones want to come, but I'm guessing 4. Let's go over who they have that are in their final 2 years of eligibility that are towards the top of the depth chart.
Okay, Kieran Crawford.
He's done after this year, correct?
Yep. Chris Murray's done after this year. Keldrick's probably going pro. I'd be shocked if he didn't go pro. Something bad happened if he's not going pro after this year.
That's 3.
That's it. Amaris Williams will be a true sophomore. And then you've got Jamonta Waller and Joe Phillips will be redshirt freshmen, I believe. And then Jared Smith is a true freshman.
You're probably going to take a portal guy in the winter that's an experienced player, a one-hit wonder guy maybe.
Yep.
But I think you need minimum 3 because it's just numbers. You don't know. And like they're high on Phillips and all those guys. But they haven't played much. So you don't know. You can't go into next season and be terrible at the edge or just too inexperienced, whatever it is. That doesn't work.
Well, and I also think you're going to need help at end. Like Amaris Williams will probably start at defensive end after Keldrick leaves. But you need a backup end. Like most of these guys are like true edge guys. They're not really like defensive ends. And you need that combination of both. You need those guys that maybe are a little bit larger. And so some of these guys, I'm sure they're expecting like, okay, maybe we can add a little bit of weight on them, make them more relevant in the run defensive aspect of things. But they also may just be casting a wide net and saying like, let's just see who we can get. And then let's kind of cross that bridge when we get there.
Well, that's one of the reasons that Aiden Harris is important. He could play either spot.
Okay.
He's that rare guy that could. There's a couple of different other guys that kind of fit that mold, and those guys are rare. The ability to play strong side end means you've got grown man strength out of high school. Right. Super, super rare. But I'm just going to throw out this name, and I don't know where he's going to go. My compadre and your friend as well, John Garcia Jr., thinks Bama's trending a little bit for Anthony Jones. Auburn needs to find a way to win that recruitment. That kid could play either side. It does not matter. He is a complete freakazoid. Auburn's all in on him. People at Auburn think it's an Alabama-Auburn battle. But right now, it's probably a ways off for a decision.
The Tank Jones, and he's the number 1 player in the state on most. If it's either him or CD Morgan, depending on where you look.
Right.
But Tank's his recruitment's interesting because like it definitely seems like he's like he wants to play games. Like he's definitely playing the recruiting game. And part of me, this is pure speculation, but part of me wonders if Auburn's going after all these other edge guys because like they may not be interested in doing that at this point.
That's an interesting concept. I mean, I know they're recruiting him. I know that firsthand, but like,
sure.
That doesn't mean they're going to go all in on whatever it is he's asking or the people around him are asking. That stuff it's just business. And that's where, as a recruiting analyst, there's nothing I can say. I'm not in that room. That's none of my business.
Yeah, there's 3 people in that room, and we aren't of those 3 people.
Right. I'd rather not know the numbers, to be honest, until afterwards, because I just want to have a look at it from a pure recruiting perspective.
Sure.
But if it's really close between 2 schools, and one school offers $250,000 more, you know what I mean? Like, I get it. So this may be a numbers deal if he can't decide between those 2 schools.
Yeah, and like it seems like Oregon's like he's talking to Oregon too. And so if it's purely NIL, like he's probably going to end up at Oregon. I mean, we saw this. We saw this with Naeem Offord last year. It's like, okay, so. If you're Auburn, I think you got to identify, if you're anybody, I think you got to identify like how much does the actual recruitment matter for some players? Because for some players, like I don't think it matters how good of a relationship you have, how often you go see them, how often you have them on campus. There's some players that it's going to be solely NIL. And like at some point, it's not worth paying those guys.
I think what you just brought up, and this is a whole other thing that I talk about a lot on the Portal podcast, it's touchy. But if you're a program that gets a top 10 class just because your NIL is good, you're not going to do anything in the playoff. You got to have guys that are bought in to be and just pick the school, but Auburn or Texas or USC. You're not going to win. Look what SC's had. They've got guys bailing right and left. They've kind of shifted to the high school ranks this year. They'll be better for it long term. I don't know how good they'll be this year. They should be good, but like long term, this is the way. Auburn shifted to that. They still take some portal guys, but they know they have to develop their own guys and have a culture. That's the way you win championships and even get in contention for it. So
yeah, if you get guys who are it's strictly a bidding war, you have a chance to lose them every time the portal opens.
That's why I won't go into specific. There's certain schools that are like, don't let the door hit you where the good word splits you.
Yeah, they just leave, and like everybody can say whatever they want. Like everybody, when Auburn was struggling on the field last year, oh, watch out, they're going to leave. And I'm like, I don't think so. I think these guys want to be here. And they didn't really lose anybody.
I would talk to those kids before the games. Most of them told me they weren't worried about. They knew their class was going to be the difference. In their mind, that was like Jared Smith told me that, and other
which
guys.
Is what you need. That's so important.
Yeah, because that's what, ironically, Saban sold when he got to Bama. In year 2, they probably should have won it his second year. They didn't beat Ford, but they probably should have. His culture is the reason.
Yeah.
If you don't have good culture, you are screwed.
Right.
Certain schools got talent, but they're not going anywhere. Their culture, not so much.
No, I think Freeze has done it the right way. They just got to win this year. And if they get to 8 or 9 wins, it's like, yeah, this is happening. This is going to happen. So we'll see. Quickly, just a portal guy that you and I were talking about earlier today, Xavier Hill, offensive tackle from Memphis. Reports have come out that he's expected to enter the portal once it opens up. This guy can play. Really talented offensive tackle with a ton of experience. I don't know if Auburn wants to add another offensive lineman, but you got to consider it because I think this guy's pretty good.
He's had 1,756 snaps over the last 2 years. He's an all-conference player. He would be a guy he's going to get drafted after this next season regardless.
Yeah.
He started his career at LSU, 6'4", 320. He graded out. His run blocking grade, this is kind of where you put things in perspective, is 80.4. You think that's probably the highest one. His pass blocking grade by PFF was 86.8. That's insane.
Yeah. I don't know where you put him. Like Auburn went out and got 2 tackles in the portal. Xavier Chaplin, who hasn't practiced in the spring, but nobody seems to be too concerned about that. And then Mason Murphy from USC. And it doesn't sound like Murphy's had that good of a spring practice where them putting Tyler Johnson over him in certain situations. So is that a thing where they look at that and they're like, well, we wanted 2 transfer tackles. Like, do we feel like Murphy at this point is an SEC tackle, or is he more of a guard? Would it make sense to go out and potentially lure Xavier Hill here, or do they feel good about Too Tall Miller? Like, I don't know. I think Auburn's fine at tackle, which feels really good to say. Feels really good to say that. We've come so far. I'm not turning down Xavier Hill by any stretch of the imagination, but I do think it's interesting that he'll probably be the top offensive tackle in this portal window. And Auburn was aggressive. They got the top 2 ranked portal tackles in the December window. Are they done? I don't know. I just think it's worth discussing.
He's played right tackle, left tackle, and guard. Yeah. So the money for him will not be friendly because there's going to be one of the elite schools that are going to be like, screw it. Like if Oregon got involved, it would not surprise me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what Auburn wants to do. I just wanted to bring it up because the most rare position to find experience, productivity, and a guy like he's a grad student.
Yeah.
He's tackle. He might be the only one even in this stratosphere of the portal window that just gets in.
Yeah.
So if you don't make a phone call, you at least got a call, right? That's what I
think so. It's like, all right, what are you like? What exactly are you looking for? Like, let's just have the discussion real quick. And if it's not a fit, it's not a fit. That's okay. Okay. I'm with you. You got to call. Once he officially gets in there for sure. Okay. The way the spring games are changing, I assume the way they'll use them as a recruiting tool will change. Brian, I want to get your thoughts on that and what to expect this weekend in just a moment, right here on Locked On Auburn. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day. And all the everydayers, highly encourage you to check out Brian's show, The Portal. Wherever you're listening or watching this show, The Portal is available there as well. So 8A's what we know and love and remember and get nostalgic about when it comes to 8A, appears to be a thing of the past. We'll see what they do moving forward, but it's going to be just kind of an open practice on Saturday. I'm interested to see what exactly they do differently, but These have always been like used as a recruiting tool, Brian, not just at Auburn, but everywhere. With them moving away from these organized scrimmages and just more open practices, does it have an impact on their use as a recruiting tool?
It depends on how you do it, because you got to get the kids' desire to come there. I mean, you got to say it's going to be scrimmage-like or something. The kids just won't come, but I don't think otherwise it changes, because it's the event and all the things going around it, tailgating, how the people interact, how the coaches work with the players. There's a lot of ways to look at it. And if nothing else, if they haven't been to a practice before at Auburn or picked a school, how does my position coach work with the players? How do they like it? So it's still a recruiting tool from that. And I would sell that if I was a position coach. I would hope that all of them are confident that they would be viewed in a positive light. So I don't think it'll change a lot. It's just, can you convince them to come to yours? Because there aren't very many true spring games left. There are few and far between. So it's kind of either go to that or you don't go to anything.
Yeah, I'm curious to see on Saturday, like if there's still energy. And I think the general level of energy for 8A games over the last, I was going to say decade, I'll say last 5 years, has dropped a little bit, I would say. I wonder, with it being free now, if more people will show up. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I've always thought 8A should be free. I thought it was ridiculous that they charge for it in general. That's a rant that I've had for a long time, and I don't have to have it anymore since it's free now. But I am curious to see like the level of energy and if recruits will feed off of that or care at all, if they're like what the atmosphere will look like, but we'll see. We'll see. As far as them being used as a retention tool, I mean, this whole thing really started with Matt Rule, head coach of Nebraska, earlier this offseason, saying that he doesn't want to have them televised because he thinks other coaches are watching them and saying, oh, we're going to like poach their players that look good in these spring games. Which, Brian, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. When I heard that, I made fun of him. I'm like, that is the dumbest thing. But it sounds like there's some truth to it the more I hear and talk to people about it. So, like, do you think that's true? Do you think that's a concern? And could Auburn potentially, like, not play as many people in this televised practice because of that?
All of it is true.
Yeah, I think you're right now. I was wrong on this.
Yeah, so was I when I first heard that. But, I mean, I've talked to somebody at Auburn, and they flat out said it's true. So I was like, okay, my opinion's now irrelevant.
Yeah, you know more than me. Yeah. Because if somebody on Auburn's staff is saying that, they're looking at other people's practices, right?
I mean, there's nobody that
televised scrimmages or whatever you want to call them, spring games.
Nobody that is not watching somebody else's roster, because you don't know who's getting in the portal. You want to be ahead of the game. It sucks because whoever's got that task, that sucks, by the way. Like that.
Yeah, you got to be aware of like where 1,000 people are. That's crazy.
I can't even imagine how many people in the back office are involved with that. It's a new category that maybe they go into the transfer portal positions. There's no way a staff can do it. They don't have the time. So
I would love that job, by the way. I would love it.
Well, yeah, you're an NFL guy too, so that would probably be like more into your thing. But probably it's similar, I guess, to me watching high school film. But some of these kids, once they get to college, they've only played like 100 reps, and they get in the portal. How do you grade that? Because they're playing mop-up duty at Iowa State or Michigan or whatever. But that's what's being asked. So,
well, it's like Auburn added Xavier Atkins, the LSU linebacker.
Oh, yeah.
And everybody's like, oh, this guy's super athletic. And I'm like, maybe like he hadn't played that much. Like his traits are great, but we don't know how it translates, you know? So I mean, there's a lot of guys like that. There's a ton. And so now if you're one of those guys and the only reps that you get are televised on your spring game and you look good, what does that look like? Are you all of a sudden more valuable in the spring window because of that? Super interesting.
Yeah, I'm not sure how it works. And every staff's got a different opinion on it. But like, I will be shocked. Like, I know Notre Dame, that it's on Peacock, but theirs, well, all the coaches are going to watch. They're going to try to get some of those kids, but they're having a spring game of sorts.
Yeah.
They're one of the few. Most people don't want to have one. I'll bet you next year, if there's still a spring window, and by the way, this is my second part to this. If there's a spring window next year, nobody will have a spring game. That's my prediction.
I think you're going to see teams try to move spring, get rid of spring practice, and move it to summer OTAs. I think that's the more likely option right now.
I don't know how that would work, but I think one of the reasons they like spring practice is you keep kids motivated in class. That's the only other thing. You give young men idle time, it usually doesn't go well. But that's
that's fair point. The reason I say that, that was one of Hugh Freeze's things that he told us in the media scrum down in Mobile.
Oh, okay.
He talked about, like, he wanted spring to be super limited, like no contact, just teaching, and then do all of the contact stuff in the summer, kind of like what the pros do with OTAs. That was his recommendation.
So
that makes sense.
10 days spring, 8 days summer, or something like that, or whatever it is, but it's just limited. I don't
really know the argument against that, honestly,
because the kids are for those that don't know, if you're a P4 player, you're enrolled in class in the summer anyway. You're at Auburn or at Memphis or whatever it is.
Yeah, right.
So, and you're with the strength coaches the whole time. The only problem with it is, when exactly do you do it? Because recruiting is like coaches. Oof, that would be interesting. I don't know how they would do it.
Well, it seems like you can just snap your fingers and change when the dead period is.
Oh my God.
Just on a whim.
Don't get me started.
Just on a whim. It's like, okay, July's a dead period now. Like, oh, that's normally like one of the bigger months when it comes to, having like unofficial visits and stuff. So I don't know if, I think you can move that around pretty easily, but
now maybe it's the back half of June and the first few days right before July 4th when semester ends.
Yeah.
I would be cool with that. I think it'd be a great idea.
Me too.
That way the kids, they spread it out. They don't get beat up as much. It's the same amount, but it's over time. And you talks about teaching moments all the time. Just teaching football. They did 1 day a week last year. I don't know what their scheme is this spring, but a lot of kids, they were just so much better than everybody in high school, especially the young guys that had a young roster. Mm-hmm. They weren't ready for SEC football last year. They got thrown into the fire.
Yeah.
That's why recruiting every year and having an upperclassman roster matters. So
right.
I would be in 100% support. I don't know, I have to look into that, but I don't know who's proposing that besides you, but I hope he screams it from the rooftops.
Well, and I think there's a few other aspects of it too. Like, so many of these guys who have dealt with minor injuries throughout the entire year, they all get these minor surgeries. And so, like, a lot of them miss either some or all of spring.
Oh yeah, it's terrible.
And then also, like, you don't have to worry about the whole early enrollee thing either, because almost everybody gets enrolled at the start of the summer. And then you actually have like everybody during.
That might be your more valid point. Coaches are going to love that. They're going to love that. I think we should start a petition here in Auburn, Alabama. I think that's
yeah. Like, do people care what we say? Who knows? Brian, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
Locked On the Portal, Apple, Spotify, Odyssey, YouTube. You can find us wherever you get this podcast right here. Locked On Auburn. You can find it on the portal.
Yes, absolutely. Please like the video. Please subscribe. And if you're tuned in on audio, please leave us a review and subscribe on your favorite audio platform as well. Helps the show out a ton. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.